I've always had a passion for being around and learning about animals. When I was younger, going to zoos and animal parks was always a part of my life. I wanted to share my passion with family and friends, so I started working with people that loved animals as much as I did, and my YouTube channel was born. Welcome back to my animal education series. Today we're here with Thomas at World Bird Sanctuary. Hello.
Hi.
And who do we have here behind us?
So this is Chris. He is a long-crested eagle.
And how did this eagle end up here at World Bird Sanctuary?
So Chris has been with us for a majority of his life. We've had him for more than 20 years. He was actually a confiscation from U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Unfortunately, Chris was being illegally smuggled into the United States. And someone had cut off his lovely crest feathers on the top of his head, one of the most distinctive things about long-crested eagles, and they were trying to pass him off as a Harris hawk, a very commonly traded and bred falconry bird in the United States. Luckily, the Fish and Wildlife agents that were inspecting the bird were savvy enough to realize that that's not what he was, and they took him away, put the guy in jail, and before too long, he ended up here. He's had a long, happy life with us.
And how old is he?
He's somewhere in his mid-20s.
And how old was he about when you got him?
Probably somewhere between 1 and 2 years old.
Okay, so you've had him for a long time. Is he an educational animal here? Or?
So he is a display bird a long time ago. When we first got him, he was an educational bird, and that just, meaning educational bird, he would actually go and do programs on site. He was actually trained to sit on the glove. But as our birds get older, they'll become a little bit more geriatric, and we like to let them have a nice long retirement. So he doesn't have to do anything. He gets all of his food on a platter. He doesn't have to go anywhere if he doesn't want to. Any stuff like that.
So where can you find these kind of eagles in the wild?
So long-crested eagles are native to sub-Saharan Africa. They're found from right below the Sahara all the way down to the southern cape of South Africa. So down in South Africa, they pretty much hug the coastline. A lot of their range is really arid desert, and so a lot of places they're actually extremely nomadic birds, as they'll actually follow the rainy season.
That's kind of interesting.
It's pretty cool.
So what do these eagles eat in the wild?
So they're kind of unique for eagle species. So most eagles are going to be preying on pretty large stuff, but as you can see, he's not a very large species. So 98% of their diet is actually going to be mice and rodents. So itty-bitty stuff.
And what do you feed him here?
So here he will get a lot of rodent. As all of our animals that we have here, we try and give them as close of a diet to what it would be in the wild as possible. But we also want it to be slightly varied, just like you don't want to eat exactly the same thing every single day. They don't want to do the same thing either. So it'll kind of get shifted up. Today, it looks like you got venison. Sometimes they'll get rodents. Sometimes it'll be chick, fish. Just kind of varies.
Kind of switch it up.
Yeah.
And off camera, you were kind of explaining some of the differences in eagles, and I found that really interesting. So, do you mind?
Yeah.
To the
So
camera?
eagles are kind of broken up into 4 different classifications. So you have your sea or your fish eagles, bald eagles are a good example of that. You have your booted eagles, your golden eagles, or your crested eagles. You have your serpentine eagles, like our Baltalier eagle that we have here at the World Bird Sanctuary. Then you also have your forest or your jungle eagles. And so one of the biggest differences between all of those different kinds of eagles is their feet, or the way that their legs are shaped. So your fish eagles, they're going to have really specialized scales and veins in their feet that allow them to dip it into extremely cold water without getting frostbite or causing permanent nerve damage. Your booted eagles, like your long-crested eagle and your golden eagle, are going to have feathers that run almost down to right above their feet. And what that does is those really thick feathers they help protect from their legs from bites, because booted eagles are mostly mammalian predators. Your serpentine eagles are going to prey mostly on snakes, so they have really thick scales that help prevent snake bites. And then your forest and your jungle eagles are kind of the exception to that. Their feet are very similar to other kinds of eagles, but they're very, very stocky birds, but they have a very short wingspan comparatively. So they can weave through trees and fly really quickly through jungle spaces, stuff like that.
And I thought that was super cool, so I thought I would share that with you guys. So, what's one of your favorite things about these long-crested eagles?
So long-crested eagles they're just very, very neat birds. They're extremely vocal. Of course, he's not making any noise right now. But one really cool thing is also just kind of a happy fact, is long-crested eagles are one of the few species of eagles that their populations are actually increasing. So long-crested eagles, their populations have been going up pretty steadily for the last decade. And their range is also like really heavily increasing all over Africa. Because since these guys are almost exclusively rodent predators, nobody likes having mice in their house or in their field, so pretty much everybody likes these guys, and they're very rarely persecuted by people.
And you're also saying that they breed all year, or they
do.
can breed.
Yeah, they don't lay very many eggs, but they're one of the few raptor species that will actually lay clutches like periodically throughout the entire year, as opposed to having like a set breeding season like most of them do. They'll usually only lay somewhere between 1 and 3 eggs. One other cool thing about their breeding season is most birds, when they're in laying their eggs, they'll lay all of their clutch like pretty closely together, so they'll usually lay 1 egg every day or 2. Long-crested eagles, it can sometimes be a gap as much as like 2 weeks, which is crazy. When you're talking about a bird that is going from like hatching from an egg to being an adult in 53 days, 2 weeks is a huge difference. So one thing that unfortunately happens a lot in the wild with these guys is the chick that hatches first will usually kill off his brothers and sisters to like increase his chances of survival. And 2 weeks is a very heavy margin.
So they obviously grow really fast.
Yes. So in like over the course of probably 6 weeks after they've hatched from the eggs, most of these kinds of birds are as big as their parents, even though they're not capable of surviving by themselves.
That's kind of crazy to think of, because a lot of like other birds kind of grow slowly and are like with their siblings for a long time. And these guys are just kicking them out immediately.
Yeah, that's something that's very common for a lot of eagle species. Bald eagles do it, golden eagles do it. It's
just an eagle thing.
Yeah, it's nature.
So how does this coloration help them out in the wild?
So that's actually an interesting thing that you brought up. Right now, there is a huge study that's actually talking about counter shading in birds, and that just means being lighter on the bottom and darker on the top. So there's lots of theories about how that helps like marine mammals and other predatory species. Is like when a prey item looks up, they see something that is light colored above them, and it's going to make it harder for them to see against like the bright sky. Or in the case of like our long-crested eagle, not being a very large bird, he's going to get preyed upon by other stuff. So if a predator is flying over and he's looking down, it's going to be harder to pick him out on the ground. But there's actually this huge study that's being done, and I cannot for the life of me remember what university is doing it. But it's the theory is that being darker on the top and lighter on the bottom can actually help with lift for these kinds of birds, like for really, really long soaring distances, is being a little bit warmer on the top and a little bit cooler on the bottom, and it'll create kind of an updraft. And so if that study continues to progress along the way that it kind of looks like it's going to, it will affect the way that we do things like paint airplanes. Because providing just that little bit of extra lift can help, means more fuel efficiency, which means more money. So, kind of cool stuff.
That's a really interesting study that I definitely wanted to be on camera, because like with planes and birds and everything, I imagine it probably helps with like, as you said, larger species like the golden eagle and like vulture species, more specifically than a smaller bird like this, but that's still super cool.
It's interesting stuff.
Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for telling us about the long-crested eagle here. That's very cool.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Don't forget to leave a big thumbs up down below, subscribe to my channel, and also check out my Instagram, @ColeShirt. As always, I'll see you next week.